Hi, everyone. Welcome to Wine.com Experiences. I'm Gwendolyn Osborn. I hope that you are thirsty for adventure today because we are kind of on a discovery tour, tasting and talking about 3 wines from some very unique places, but that are rich in history and tradition, but also ones that you might not have heard of as much or been quite as familiar with. So yeah, it's a little bit of an adventure. If you purchase this trio of wines from Wine.com ahead of time, fantastic. Please go ahead and get those wines open, get them into some glassware. If you don't have the wines, that's totally fine. I guarantee after this discussion tonight, you will definitely want to buy some, and we still have the trio available on Wine.com. And of course, the video will live on our YouTube channel. What are we tasting? So we're going to be starting with the Boutari Moschofilero from Greece. Then we are going to move on to the Planeta Cerasuolo di Vittoria from Sicily, and then finish off with the Blandy's 5-year Malmsey from the island of Madeira. So we have some incredible guests to talk about these wines and the stories behind them. So let's welcome Marina Boutari, Commercial Director of Boutari, Alessio Planeta, CEO of Planeta, and then also we have Chris Blandy, CEO of Madeira Wine Company and Blandy's. So welcome to everyone. I want to thank you so much for being here, for staying up late. I know it's pretty late in Europe right now, and just really grateful for your time and being here. I also want to remind everybody at home who's watching, if you noticed as I introduced everyone, everybody here, each guest here shares the same last name as the winery that they're representing. So we are talking to the actual family from these family-owned properties. So that's pretty much as authentic as we can get here. So again, appreciate all of your time. And because we have so much to talk about, we are going to dive right into each wine. We will be starting in Greece with Marina. Hello, Marina. Welcome. Thank you again so much.
Welcome, everybody. Hello.
So Greece, this country has a wonderfully rich history dating back to ancient times, not only as a start of civilization, but also for wine. And there's so many unique places and indigenous grape varieties here. So when you're talking about Greece to someone just as a wine growing region, how do you describe it?
Well, Greece actually is one of the oldest winemaking regions, I think. We found we have a wine press that dates 4,000 years old, that's found in Crete, and also a vine that's 3,000 years old, that's found in the Peloponnese, which is the region that we're going to talk about today. We have 320 indigenous grape varieties. And if somebody wants to learn about Greece, they cannot learn about all PDO regions that are 29, but should focus on the 4 main ones, which are one in the north, it's called Nausa, and produces the main grape variety Xinomavro, which produces mainly red and rosé wines. Then we have Mantinia. Mantinia is in the Peloponnese and produces Moschofilero, the wine that we're going to talk about today. Then we have Nemea. The main variety of Nemea is Ayurgetico, a red wine. And then we have the famous island of Santorini, which produces Assyrtiko, grape variety of Assyrtiko, and the wine of Santorini. This is the plateau and the vineyard, our vineyard in Mantinia, that we bought in 1991 from Campus Winery. This was established in the winery there was established in 1927 by Andreas Campus, which is also one of the oldest winemakers in Greece, along with Boutari. Boutari is one of the oldest winemaking
from
companies.
1879, right?
Yes, in 1879.
fifth generation. That's so amazing.
Fifth generation. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just wonderful. So tell us a little bit about Boutari as being one of the oldest. What was, the mission of Boutari kind of as a producer of Greek wine? How's that evolved over time now that you're here?
My mission is to keep it going, to tell you the truth.
Okay, I'm for that.
Okay, so it all started in 1879 by my great grandfather in Nausa, and what was impressive about Boutari was that it was the first the winery that bottled first red wine in Greece. So the first bottled red wine is Nausa Boutari. It's back there behind me, a few bottles, and it was bottled in the beginning of the 19th century. It's a wine that still exists, and it's a bestseller. It also circulates in the US. You can find it there.
I personally tasted it, and I love it. I've become a huge fan of Xinomavro.
Xinomavro, you liked it. I'm glad to hear. It ages very well, Xinomavro. It all started then, and then it moved on from generation to generation. The first export started before the World War, and then in the 1980s, my father and my uncle decided to expand to other regions, and that's how they bought wineries and vineyards in different regions. So we currently own 6 wineries and vineyards in around Greece. One of them is in Mandinia that we're going to talk about today. Mandinia is in the Peloponnese. Peloponnese is a peninsula in the south of Greece. Okay, and it produces the grape variety, the main grape. It's a PDO region, and it produces the grape variety Moschofilero. Difficult to pronounce.
I know, but I'm getting there. Moschofilero.
You're perfect at it.
Well, I've talked to you a couple times. I've been working on
You're true.
But one thing I remember trying this wine because you have wonderful availability of it in the US. I remember trying it like 15 years ago. I remember living in New York and getting into wine. I remember just really enjoying it because of the aromatics are so wonderful and different. And then while kind of preparing for this, I finally saw a picture of the grapevines and a bunch of grapes. And I was kind of surprised. It reminds me a little bit of Pinot Gris. It is not a white grape, even though it is a very pale white wine. So can you tell us a little bit about
yes, it's pretty impressive. It's a pink-skinned grape variety that is pretty generous, as I would say, because it can produce, because it's pink-skinned, it can produce different kind of wines. It produces white wines when you don't let the skin mature, but also it can produce great rosé wines, sparkling wines, as well as dessert wines. So it's a very diverse and generous variety.
So so that's very unique for it. But well, let's taste this version, because this is obviously a very lighter colored wine. It's dry.
Yes.
The aromatics here, and this is what I remember from when I first tried it. So kind of, if you could kind of walk us through tasting it and talk a little bit about how this represents the grape variety and the place here in Greece.
Okay, so we can start with the color. You can see it's a pale yellow, almost white color. In the nose, you can distinguish muscat type notes. I don't know if you do, and wild roses and lemon tree blossoms.
Yeah, it's very floral.
It's very floral.
It's
very aromatic. That's what I love about Moschofilero. It's very fresh and aromatic.
Yes, it reminds me of if you walk out and the
makes
flowers
you feel that you're out there in the spring.
Yeah. But also some very lovely fruits, some citrus and fruits kind of blended in there, and it's just beautiful.
I distinguish some honey as well in the back.
pretty.
Huh? You like it?
Yes, but I also want to mention for folks, because this is a great, I'm a big fan of this, this is 11.5% alcohol. And so I love
that's what I wanted to say. It's a very light wine that helps you, that you can have another glass without having to worry about it. It's light, crisp, fresh, aromatic, and very, very balanced, I would say. It has a very good aftertaste that lasts quite long. And I think it leaves you with the aromas that we felt in the nose. So it's one of my favorite wines, actually, because you can enjoy it either by itself as an aperitif because of its freshness and crispiness, but also pair it with almost everything, I would say, because of its light character.
What are some of your favorite pairings? Your favorite pairings?
My favorite pairings. I like Moschofilero very, very much with mostly with Mediterranean cuisine, and you know, in Greece we have appetizer and tapas. We like putting food on the table, both Greece and Italy and Spain and Portugal. I think all of us do that. We like to have different plates and share. Now with COVID, things are will be a little bit more difficult with sharing, but hopefully we'll get back to normal soon. But Moschofilero is good with that because you can taste different appetizers, either seafood, salads, or actually any kind of Mediterranean food, and pair with it. But also it goes very well with Asian food. Not very spicy,
right?
But even sushi. Sushi is one of my favorite combinations, to tell you the truth.
That would be lovely. I was thinking of shrimp and things, but also with sushi or I'm not a super spicy when it comes to Asian fare, but this would be perfect because of those aromatics. And
no, it's not good with. It's not very good with spicy food because it's a light wine, so it's not a good pairing with spicy.
There's not enough sweetness to it. I realize that with the lighter body and lower alcohol, but it would be good with something a little bit more fresh in the. So this is beautiful. I haven't had it in a while. It's so nice to kind of reintroduce me to one that was one of my favorites. So also one thing that we got some questions about with people who were coming in to taste is, I know you've been involved with kind of Greece as a destination for food and wine and travel. And when we're able to go and visit, do you have any recommendations for people who may want to visit Greece and just explore the wines and foods of the country, places or tips on that?
Okay.
Broad question, sorry.
as far as Greece is concerned, I think the best way to visit Greece is with a sailboat, for those who like the sea. Okay, but that doesn't have to do with wine. It has to do with the country. Greece has a lot of islands, and it's the perfect way to visit a lot of places and enjoy the sun and the sea. In a lot of islands, you can find wine, like Santorini, first of all. That's the most famous one. Crete is another very, very famous island that produces wine, and also Samos is famous for its wine. As far as if somebody wants to do a very wine tasting trip, I think they need to go to the four major PDO regions. So start from the north and then move on. I would stop in Attica, although it's not one of the four PDA regions. Stop in Athens, because if you come to Greece, you need to see the Parthenon and the Acropolis. You cannot visit Greece and not see that. It's definitely worth it as a monument. And then move on down to the Peloponnese. Mandinia is about an hour away from Athens, so it's a perfect trip by car. And then go back to Athens and take either the boat or a plane to Santorini and enjoy perfect seafood with Assyrtiko, the main grape variety there, and take another boat and go to Crete and finish your trip there. So
I'm taking notes. Yes. It sounds amazing. I love that. Just visit by boat. And I'm thinking, you know, all these places that we are talking about today, you could just take a boat to all of them, because we are talking about these Mediterranean regions and the wines from these places. So it could be a whole trip. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing this beautiful wine and stories. And I can't wait to visit Greece. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me. So
we are heading over the Ionian Sea. Am I right? Yep. Okay, the Ionian Sea from Greece to Sicily. We are coming into Sicily with Planeta and Alessio. Welcome. Great to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hello, everybody.
So Sicily, it's an island. It's a smaller territory, but it is extremely diverse in its terroir. I mean, look at that. It's just the idea of the different kinds of soil and land and influences that it has. Can you just tell us a little bit about Sicily as an island, as a wine growing region?
Yeah. So really, Sicily's next step after Greece. So about the journey of vines, of viticulture, of wine. So we are a little bit more on the east, on between the 37 and 38 parallel. And Sicily, if you talk about Italy, and Sicily is the largest vineyard of Italy, or Sicily and Veneto are the largest one. We are a land of diversity. For having a lot of native grapes, but also a lot of different terroirs. This is, for me, is the key of the something very interesting about Sicilian wine. To give an idea, harvest in Sicily starts on the first weeks of August on the west part of Sicily with some muscats, some Grillo, some Chardonnay. And we finish on the last days of October, sometimes the first days of November in the Etna on the highest vineyards. So Sicily have viticulture from the sea to the volcanic soils at 1,200 meters. And this for me is something that was an inspiration for me, for my family, because my family was born on the southwest of Sicily. We are in Sicily since 17 generations, but our name is a little bit Spanish, because in the Planeta it's a little bit Spanish, because in the 16th century many Spanish stopped in Sicily. And my family start from that time. We were from the southwest of Sicily. And from the southwest of Sicily, we start to do agriculture. And my grandfather was a founder of a cooperative. My uncle, Diego, was like one of the pioneers of a Sicilian renaissance of viticulture. And with my generation, start Planeta with our name on the labels. And this was the first harvest was in 95. On the west part of Sicily. But because we had this perception of the diversity of Sicily, we started at that time to explore Sicily. So today Planeta is in 5 different terroirs of Sicily: Menfi, Vittoria, Noto, Etna, and Capomilazzo. And you show a picture of this. And this is where we really, in each of these places, we have vineyards and winery. In each of these places, we make complete different wines.
Yeah.
And this for me is most beautiful things about Sicily.
Yeah, I am always surprised when I learn about one place and I see this amazing thing, and then you go in the volcanic soils and that part is so different, and the grape varieties are different and they're indigenous. And so it's a wonderful place to kind of think about as diversity, but in a smaller area. And you said Planeta has, which generation, was your grandfather Diego?
My uncle.
Okay. And when Planeta started making wine there, when your uncle started making wine, I think, didn't he start with Chardonnay? That was an idea. Because
my generation, we started in the middle of 90s on the west part of Sicily, in a moment where was a little bit early to talk about the beauty of Frappato and Nero d'Avola around the world. And there was some area on Sicily, especially where we started, is absolutely super interesting for the French grapes and the Sicilian grapes together. And we start with the Chardonnay that became a iconic wine from the south of Italy, from the south of Sicily, and this was the wine that brings us around the world. And then after, the other grapes and the other wine arrives under the different appellation. And between these grapes, there is this wine. There is also Cerasuolo di Vittoria. The Cerasuolo di Vittoria is done in the area of Vittoria. Is the only one Sicilian DOCG, so you have the classical Italian stamp.
So Vittoria is the only DOCG.
The only Sicilian DOCG, yes, okay. Yes. Okay. And is a blend of two native grapes, because Cerasuolo is the name of the appellation, and it came from a Sicilian word. Cerasa means cherry, so it's the red fruit, cherry fruit, and so Cerasuolo is the wine that has a smell of cerasa. This is the.
But it also doesn't it also relate to the soil and the color of the soil? Because I think we have a photo of Victoria, and the soil is red also there.
Yeah. So this is a picture of the area, and the soils are red and sandy and flat. So these were in terrace. You have here like 90 centimeter, 1 meter of red sandy soils, and then a lot of calcareous soils. And the grapes here are two grapes: Nero d'Avola, that is 15% of Sicilian viticulture, is in different areas, and then Frappato. Frappato is only 800 hectares, as is only in this area, and it's the more aromatic red grapes that we have in Sicily. In fact, if I have to describe this wine, for me, the key of this wine is this absolutely unique strawberry flavor and mulberry flavor. So a lot of breadfruit. It's also a little bit spicy, thanks to these sandy soils. And then even if you are in the southeast of Sicily, so in one of the warmer area with less rain, you don't have a lot of alcohol also in this one. It's 13. It's not like lovely Greek wine, but for a red wine from the south of Sicily, it's also a good balance between the alcohol and the taste of the wine.
Yeah. So this is that blend of Nero d'Avola and Frappato, and this, I haven't had this wine before, and it just was amazing on the nose, because, and I think maybe we can taste it and you can kind of talk about the aromas and flavors and how much of what, because I've had Nero d'Avola before many times, but I've never had anything like this. And I'm guessing that's the aromatics from the Frappato, meshing really well with the Nero d'Avola. And I would recommend this wine. I don't want to say it tastes exactly like it, but if somebody really enjoyed old vine Grenache from Australia or something, it has that same really bright red fruits and that same kind of subtle spice that you were talking about, and that mix and that wonderful aroma. It's just, if you like that, you have to try this wine. So let's taste it and talk through it, please.
Yeah. And the area, what I suggest in this wine is also to drink not too warm. I would say not too fresh, but not too warm. So like 16 is the best to have a much more these flavors of the wine. And the best food pairing for sure is wherever you have tomato, because the tomato with Cerasuolo works very well. So you can have. I cannot cook today, but I bring this. This is the typical arancini so with meat and sauce inside and fried. So they are delicious with Cerasuolo. Also any melanzane alla parmigiana. So where you have this kind. Also you can have traditional in Sicily. You can have this Cerasuolo also with the tuna. For example, with the tuna, maybe in some way, it works also very, very well. And there are only 35 producers, so not many producers. And it's really a wine that, as you said, that for me have flavors that are only in this wine. We don't have in other area. Is much more a story of the terroir than the story of the varieties. So the Nero d'Avola area have these flavors that are different from the Nero d'Avola 100 kilometers from Vittoria.
So like we said, just Sicily, the diversity, even just that small amount. But I love the acidity on the wine too, is beautiful. So when you mentioned tomatoes, it's something with that is just a perfect match. So if you, because again, we're working on our list of travel. So if someone wanted to come and explore the wines and food of Sicily, do you have any recommendations or tips on how one would get the most out of that?
Yes. I have first recommendation is to make a choice, because in Sicily you cannot come and visit all the island in one time. So you have to decide east or west. If you go to west, you do Palermo, that is the capital, is the best street food you can imagine, and from this area you move to the area of Trapani and Marsala, so the classic area of Marsala. Then you go to the area of Agrigento, where we are, and it's one of the most beautiful and clean and old style countries place. So is today like it was maybe thousands of years ago, where you have only wheat, vineyards, olive trees, and not too many village, not too many, whatever. On the other side, you choose to stay on the east. You do Catania, you do Etna, and you do southeast of Sicily, so Syracuse, that was founded by Greece. It's full of beauties, and it's the homeland of Nero d'Avola. So it's the area where Nero d'Avola was born, when you find the Nero d'Avola cultivated in the southeast on the white soils. So it's really, if you do, you need, at least you don't have, you need 2 or 3 weeks. That no. If you want to stay 10 days or 7 days, do east or west.
Okay.
And one area on the Etna is easy because all the winery are not far from the other one. So you can, on the other side, you need to move a little bit more, but you move in a lovely country area, so it's also very interesting. Memphis, where I live, is paradise for because there are wineries, olive producers, and you go to the beach also.
Okay.
So let's hope to have a lot of view very soon.
Yes, and I'm so impressed that you live in paradise. Next trip. It sounds like you all do. So thank you so much, Alessio. I love this wine. A new favorite. So now we're going to move on to the Portuguese island of Madeira with Chris Blandy. Hello, Chris. Welcome. Thank you again for being here. So to get situated with Madeira, we don't have a map. So if you were to describe to someone, where is Madeira, how would you do so?
Well, Madeira is a very small Portuguese island, actually located off the western coast of North Africa. So we're only 310 miles off Africa, and about just under 500 miles from the southwest point of Portugal. But it is a Portuguese island, and it was actually discovered in 1419 by the Portuguese, uninhabited when it was discovered, and of volcanic origin. So they say that the island came up from the sea floor about over 5 million years ago. So we don't have any active volcanoes now, but obviously, being of volcanic origin has a huge role to play in ultimately helping us define the style of wine that we're well known for.
Yeah. So speaking of that style of wine, and that is just so stunning. So some people kind of have a basic question a little bit of just what is Madeira? How does it differ as a fortified wine? So maybe if you could describe a little bit about how Madeira is made, and kind of weave in some of the history to how this specific method of production came to define the wine.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one, really, because if you think about where it's located on the latitudes, it's quite far south when you compare it to the classic, European growing regions. So we're actually on the same latitude as around, Casablanca and more or less around Dallas, Texas as well. So we are quite far south. It's not your typical growing region of Europe. And it was, wine was actually discovered almost by mistake because of its location, its geographical location. It was a hugely important strategic port of call for the Portuguese when they went discovering, down the African coast, across to Brazil, around to India, etc. So, they always stopped at Madeira to pick up fresh water, fresh vegetables, food, and also barrels of wine, because the first vineyards actually came in from Crete, and it was the Malmsey vineyard that came in, and it was planted shortly after the discovery. So during the 15th century, the first recorded shipments of Madeira were at the end of the 15th century. So these sailors used to hold Madeira wine as ballast in these barrels at the hulls of the ship. And legend has it, and it's quite interesting, this legend has it that one particular captain, who was obviously quite, enjoying his wines, he decided to do an experiment. And on one particular trip to India, he took on barrels of wine, and he agreed this with the producer beforehand. He said, on my way back, I will try and leave a portion of the wine left in barrels so we can actually taste it when I come back and see you maybe in 5-6 years' time. And the legend goes on to say that he did do the sea route to India and then back again. And when he finally came back to the island, he sat down with the producer and he pulled out this barrel of wine that he had hidden away somewhere in the hulls of the ship. And they were amazed to see that a huge amount of the volume of the wine had actually evaporated off. And they're questioning whether or not the crew had actually found the wine. So a lot of the wine had evaporated off. And they tasted the wine, and they were amazed to see not only the fact that it was still drinkable, but it actually improved compared to the original wine that was being produced on the island. And so this whole myth started that Madeira wine was pretty average when it was first produced on Madeira, but then improved radically with the sea voyage. And so that's why a lot of these wines were called vinho de roda, which means the round trip wines. Wines were being sent to specific locations around the world, not only for the fact that they lasted the sea journey, but actually for the fact that they improved with the sea journey as well. And so, whenever I tell this story to people and start with the fact that I based it on a legend, people are going to be amazed when I actually show them pictures of purchase orders done through producers at the end of the 19th century, end of the 18th century even, asking producers to ship particular types of Madeiras to specific locations before heading up finally to the end consumer. So, these were amazing purchase orders back in the time. Please ship 2 barrels of wine via Jamaica to then go up to Southampton for my client, so and so. So these, it's such an amazing way of looking how Madeira has actually developed from, its 15th century discovery period to where we are today.
Yeah, and so part of the reason that improved and what people were looking for was the heating. So like to just kind of differentiate it from something like port, which is also fortified with a spirit. So Madeira has the extra added process of the heating, which does what?
So it's obviously it's natural to compare Madeira to sherry and port. We're all in the fortified category, but the key ones, especially for port, it's firstly Madeira is predominantly a monovarietal wine, which is great because you can almost identify the style of the wine if you know the varietals. Secondly, we do use a slightly different fortifying agent. So whereas port use grape brandy at about 76%, here in Madeira we use grape spirit. So this is a fortifying agent at about 96%. So we don't want any flavor or aromas imparted on our wine as we stop the fermentation process. But the most important difference that separates us between our neighbours up in the north of Portugal is the fact that we are actively looking to heat the wines. There are 2 ways of aging Madeira. One way is what we use for our level entry 3-year-old Madeiras. In the US market, you'll find it as a rainwater. In the UK market, the Duke of Clarence. So this is where we control the aging process, where we put the wines into stainless steel tanks for a period of 4 months. We're slowly cooking the wines at about 116 degrees Fahrenheit temperature. And then we're placing the wines into large Brazilian satinwood vats for a period of 2 years before finally bottling it as a 3-year-old Madeira rainwater in the US. So that's called estufagem, and that's where we control the heating. Everything outside of that, so what we call our premium categories, and 5-year-old Malmsey fits into that, is what we age called the Quenteiro method, and this is ultimately to try and replicate what was going on, during the 15th, 16th, 17th centuries when wine was being aged in the holds of the ship, and this is where we use very old American oak. So the coopers say the average age of barrel that we have on the island is about 60 to 80 years old, so they're constantly being repaired and reused. Very old American oak. We have a very unique wine lodge right where I am in the center of Funchal, so right close to sea level. It's an old wine lodge that my ancestor bought in 1838. It's got these 12 beautiful aging rooms, and in each one of the aging rooms there's going to be a specific microclimate in there which is naturally caused. And so if you want to see, how aggressive the aging process is, all you have to do is go and have a look at the data at the top highest aging room floor that we have, and you can be losing between 8 to 10% of volume through water evaporation every year. So that's a huge difference when it comes to Madeira wine within the fortified categories. We're constantly heating our wines on purpose through the estufagem or naturally through the Quenteiro, in order to transform those really, the classic primary aromas that you'll find in the white grapes through to the tertiary aromas, or what we call the Madeira bouquet, where you start getting the spices, the molasses, the raisin notes, the prunes, et cetera, et cetera. So
yeah, I do want to taste this. I also just want to mention though that you're 7th generation of Blandy's, which was one of the very first, and you're also part of the Madeira Wine Company. And are you still the only family wine operated or the oldest family wine operated? Tell me a little bit how it's evolved. 200 years now, right?
Yeah, we're celebrating 210 years this year. So no, it's been. I mean, we came from a farming family in the south of England. And so John Blandy first came out here in 1808. I mean, he was obviously, a visionary at the time because he saw the great opportunities. He was a young lad, early 20s. He set up the company in 1811 and then grew it to a point where we were one of the largest during the 19th century. Not as big as, Cossart Gordon, for example, but, we were one of the largest of the British families. And over time, he prepared the company for the next generation to come through, and that's what we've done subsequently after that. So we haven't just been involved in Madeira wine; we've also invested in different areas. But it's amazing to think that Madeira wine, even with all the problems that we've had on the island, from phylloxera to oidium to lack of sulfur to treat the vines, to prohibition in the US, to major markets falling apart, we've found a way to actually come through. And in the last 3 years, the whole wine sector here in Madeira has been really, really developing in such a positive way. There are a total of 8 Madeira wine producers right now, and everybody's been producing really high quality wines. The sales have been increasing year after year. A lot of people are jumping on Madeira because of its history, especially the history with the US market. But also the variety that Madeira has, the acidity that Madeira has, and the fact that sommeliers, the on-trade business, absolutely love it. So it is almost the ultimate food pairing wine, which everybody is trying almost for the first time today, and keeps on trying it. So it's great.
So let's taste the one we have here, which is the 5-year Malmsey. And so Malmsey is also known as Malvasia in other parts of the world, and this is aged 5 years in the Quenteiro. Am I saying that right? Quenteiro method. So this is the 5-year. Tell us a little bit about the attributes of Malmsey and how that 5 years influences what we're tasting here, because it's a beautiful color here.
Yeah, so I mean, this is a classic Madeira, and I think in some of the more mature markets, people are going to immediately identify Madeira wine as the Malmsey, so as the sweetest or the richest Madeira. So Madeira, as I mentioned, has these styles to it, and you have 4 main styles. You have dry, which is a social, the medium dry, the verdelho, The medium rich, the Boal, and the rich is the Malmsey. And these are all separated by, obviously, by grape type, flavors, aromas, etc. But from a residual sugar point of view, it starts at about 45 grams per liter of residual sugar for your Cerasuolo, and then goes up this wine, which is probably about 110 grams per liter of residual sugar. So straight away, you can see from the color. Now, this dark amber color comes from the higher amount of residual sugar in here reacting with heat and therefore caramelizing naturally. The sugar is creating this dark amber color. So the longer you leave Madeira wines, the darker it should become. And then, of course, on the nose, you've got this real classic sense of Malmsey. So this beautiful molasses, raisins, spices.
Caramel.
Yeah, coming to it. I mean, it really is. I mean, for me, every time I smell this, I think of two things straight away. First, I think of the classic bulled mel, which we produce here on the island. It's a very classic cake, which is made at Christmas time. It's got a lot of raisins to it. It's made with sugarcane, molasses. It's made with almonds as well. Excuse me. So I make that with a natural comparison, but I also make a comparison with marmalade. I just love the marmalade notes on this wine. And so when you're smelling it for the first time, you definitely get a sense, and obviously from the color as well, you get a sense that there is a little bit of sugar in here. You are going to have quite a rich experience on the palate. But the great secret with Madeira, and I think this is really what's turning people on about it right now, is that the level of acidity on here gives some real freshness and gives it some great balance to balance out that residual sugar and just really, fill your mouth up and giving you great length as well.
Yeah, what I love about this and Madeira in general is just the richness that you can get. And there is that amount of sweetness, but the finish usually finishes more dry. And I love that. It doesn't leave you with any of that residual sweetness.
Yeah, I think that's the secret with the winemaker. Francisco now he's been with us for 25, 26 years. And, the cause of his success is his ability to constantly, develop these blends, and we have this continual improvement concept going on in the winery. So we're obviously respecting over 200 years of history with a huge amount of stocks of very old wines. Some of them over 100 years old, but with our constant search for improving the wines. And I think when it comes to these younger blends, the secret that he's found, the secret formula that he's found, and blending slightly older and slightly younger wines together, so you do get a really good grasp of what Madeira can bring to you in terms of the level of layers that Madeira has. A lot of people won't have necessarily understood Madeira for the first time, and when they come back to it, for their second or third glass, they'll always find new aromas and new flavors that they wouldn't have got in the first tasting. So it is a discovery wine. I think people get very surprised by Madeira. And more often than not, they always love to come back to it because they'll find something new.
Yeah, and for this style, and again, there are four. I mean, we could do 2 or 3 hours, and I have been to a 2 or 3 hour Madeira seminar to learn about it. But for this Malmsey style, what would you recommend for people for a quick pairing on this?
Well, for me, I'm not a huge dessert fan. I try not to be anyway. Huge dessert fan, because I think when you're having a Malmsey, it's almost like the almost perfect. You finish your main course and you have a nice glass of Madeira, because it's almost a dessert in its own right. But if you do if you do have a sweet tooth, then I probably would suggest a pecan pie or some dark chocolate fondant.
Oh, very southern of you. I love it.
or if you're here on Madeira, you have to try the Boule de Mel, which is a honey cake here in Madeira with Malmsey. It is, it is a pairing made in heaven.
Yeah, no, beautiful. But it is on its own. I think also gorgeous. So, and I another island that I think we need to visit. I believe Madeira's a little bit smaller than, obviously than Greece, but also slightly smaller than Sicily as well.
Yeah, I mean it is small. It's only 286 square miles. So
come visit.
Sorry.
Go visit, and there's much to do.
No, it is. It is. I do have to say this contractually, because it is an absolutely beautiful island. I was born in Madeira, and I, every time I leave, I always want to come back. I've always been an island boy here. But I get amazed by the beauty of the island, the the variety that the island brings as well. So, obviously the culture has been such an important part of how the Portuguese developed the island, but it's also a very nice mix of different nationalities, purely because of its shipping past. In the past, a lot of people used to joke with me, especially at school in the UK. There's, oh, my grandma, that's an old person's home. That's where my grandmother used to go for, on the cruising holiday. But you come to Madeira nowadays, and you have radical sports, you have beautiful hiking around the island, you have deep sea fishing, you can go rappelling. The gastronomy is phenomenal. You have beautiful fresh fish, fresh tuna. You have some great meat on a stick, which is a very simple but very classic Madeira cuisine here. So, there's a lot to do. And, they're neighboring islands as well, which you can go and visit, just get a different flavor for what the archipelago can bring. Mm-hmm. So it is an absolutely stunning island to bring, and it packs a punch. It really does.
Yes. So hopefully we have planned everyone's next trip to the Mediterranean through all of these wonderful places. Thank you all so much for sharing this. I was going to just kind of wrap up a little bit of just really quickly, like, just what are you looking forward to in the future? Is there anything that just excites you or about your region, or something you want to tell people that gets them excited about trying something new in your place? So since we're with you, Chris, go ahead.
Look out for table wine from Madeira.
Okay.
Yeah, volcanic islands, there's been a huge amount of investment going into table wines in Madeira. We're doing our own Atlantis brand as well. So, we're really excited about it. I think there's got a huge amount of potential. They're nice, fresh, rosé whites and reds coming out. So look out for it.
Oh, I will. That's fantastic. Alessio, any Sicilian excitement?
Yeah, I hope that Sicily will have in the future a better reputation in the fine wines, thanks to the Etna wines, but thanks also to the small appellation of Sicily. Some of them are absolutely unique. So Sicily, go hike. This is what I hope.
Yes. Well, I think that as soon as we get people trying more of these wines, that will easily happen because they're very impressive. Yeah. Marina, what about you?
Produce a rosé wine and a sparkling wine from Moschofilero, because I think they will really be impressive.
Yeah.
Actually, this year we will be producing a rosé wine from Moschofilero.
Wonderful. And a sparkling as well?
Sparkling not this year, but not soon.
Year, but coming up. Can't wait. Sounds amazing. Thank you so much for being here, for staying up late, for sharing your stories and your history. And I just appreciated everything that you've discussed. I love all of these wines. They're all so unique and different, and they just truly show a sense of place, and I can't wait to visit. So we look forward to when we can all taste together. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Salute and santé.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Cheers.
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 It's both a science and a form of high art. It's made from the combination of grapes, sunlight, rain, soil, and time. It's raised up in the moments that matter. It's wine. And we are Wine.com. We have the largest wine selection in the world, online sommeliers with free advice, and now our powerful new app puts the entire world of wine in your hands. Wine.com. Seriously passionate about wine. Download our free app today.